And so, my dear ones, welcome into this great month of December. We're moving into a new season now. We're leaving harvest and all that beauty and grace of gratitude and thanksgiving and our celebrations, and now we're moving into the great season that Christians, anyway, call Advent, and that just means come, and its word is summed up in Maranatha. Don't you love all these wonderful words? Maranatha simply means come, but within that little word, there is a multitudinous sense of all great good things that could be realized by you and realized by me. But Christians are not the only ones who celebrate very especially this season. All of the religious groups are celebrating light in some form or another as we move through the end of this year. Because as you have had a tiny little taste of what it is to live in the dark, cold days of winter, in countries where they're used to this all of the time, and since time immemorial, during the dark, long days of winter, it has turned us all into ponderous people, much more ponderous than we might be in the long summer days when we're busy in all kinds of ways. But especially in the beginning, when there was only to stay warm and to stay safe in the dark nights, when people gathered around great fires and pondered things, exchanged stories and mythologies and so on, and had time to question the deeper things in life. That's what happened. And so in that pondering, there seemed to be a certain melancholy that floated through the atmosphere of things, and a longing for something that wasn't yet realized. And Advent and these times and days of what we call preparation for the great celebration of the light on the 25th of December for millions of people on the planet, and different dates for others, we're in a state of preparation. We're preparing ourselves for something, or we're called to do that. For the Buddhist community, and especially for the monks, from the 1st of December to the 8th of December, they enter into a deep, intensive retreat wherein they are examining their lives with regard to how they've lived their practice during the year and what is there to be gleaned from that intensive pondering and contemplation. And it's not retreats go on too in the Christian world as well. And as they move through as we move through these weeks of Advent, of course, purple is the color of Advent. Hence, I'm wearing purple today. It's a habit, and it's the royal, spiritual, priestly color of sovereignty, and it's the mindfulness of something great is about to happen. And so when something great's about to happen, you wear your best garments, don't you? You show up. But there's one Sunday in Advent when the candle is pink on that candle wreath, and it's Gautate Sunday, which is a celebration of joy because we're getting close to the revelation of the light. And so the color is the pink color of joy. And so on and so forth. And every religion has its mythology and its ritual around this season. And so the question is, where are we in all of this? Where are we in all of this? Well, we're right in the midst of it. We're right in the center of it. And I was sharing this morning that the great Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, before he became enlightened, went into 49 days of deep, immovable meditation. And in the 7 months, the 1st of December, he went more deeply into samadhi, which is the deepest thought or contemplation you can enter into. And then on the 8th of December, when the first morning star rose and brightened the skies, the great Buddha was moved to tears because he had awakened into self-realization. He had realized the self. And as I was again saying this morning, it's no coincidence that he happened to emerge on the 8th of December, which is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. Go figure. Don't you love the way everything fits together? There really is only one thing going on. And so the monks, that's why the monks from the 1st to the 8th go into a deep, intensive retreat to honor their leader, and also to gain something for themselves and to release themselves of something too, whatever that might be. So I'm challenging us all now from the 1st to the 8th of December to do likewise, to put aside 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, however many minutes a day, to be still, to be quiet, to listen, to ponder the deeper things, the inner things, the heart-minded things, to ponder. Ernest Holmes even says, I mean, he recalls and remembers the echoes of this season. As you know, he's very well versed with scripture, and he embraced Christianity in its metaphysical form, very much so. And he says in, I think it's 109 of the textbook, he says, the bell of freedom is ringing. Let him who is athirst come. That's a direct quote from scripture. Come. And he says, enter, plunge is the word used, plunge more deeply into our natures and the nature of the universe so that we can be one with the understanding of what's available to us, the unimagined treasure, possibilities and opportunities that are there for us to realize. And again, he says, from the text, but in Kindle form, he says, you know, this opportunity is there for each and every one of us. And again, he quotes the scriptures. He says, I stand at the door and knock. I stand at the door and knock, which is what the monks do from the 1st to the 8th of December in Buddhism. They stand at the door and knock. What you do, what I do when we're in meditation, we stand at the door and knock. And then he goes on to say that the best thing the Creator can do for us all is to leave us alone and let us find our own way to the self of ourselves, which has echoes of the Bhagavad Gita, which he studied deeply, when it says the self must raise the self. Which brings back to mind the ancient mythology of the search by the knights for the Holy Grail. They had to enter the forest at its deepest, darkest, no entrance state, and forge their own path, their own way through this experience on their own. No priest, no vicar, no pastor, no rabbi, no minister could go before them and prepare the way or do it for them. They had to do it all by themselves. And then entering in to be confronted by the two most clinging things in our lives, desire and fear, desire and fear. To be emptied of those two states along the way, which is to find the Holy Grail, and then return, come back, and share their wisdom with the community. Do you see how it's all linked? It's all the one thing, and we're all saying it in different ways and moving toward it or back into it in different ways. But it's all the one journey, it's all the one process, it's all the one experience for each and every one of us. So that's why this time of year is so amazingly rich with symbology and mythology that's supposed to help us to raise the self. and to overcome what all of the great prophets and all of the great saints experience since time immemorial, the dark night of the soul, which is what the winter symbology is about. And the crying out, come, 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 Lord of light, Christed Lord of light, and redeem me and save me. Save me, really, from what? My small self, from my sleepiness, from my disconnect, from my separation from the true essence of my being. Save me from this. Redeem me from this. And when we cry out to the Lord, we're crying out to what? The law, the great Holy Spirit of life itself, the creative energy of the universe, to save us from within ourselves by moving through ourselves in an awakened way. That's what we're crying out for. We're not crying out for some person or someone or something. We're crying to the light within ourselves to rise up and dispel our darkness of ignorance and separation. That's what this season is about. And you and I will always suffer from divine discontent for as long as we're wearing a body and we're on this plane. But as we learn, we'll be able to snap out of it more quickly and extend the times in between we go into that phase when we have to go up the mountain or out onto the lake or into the wilderness to get a grip on ourselves. See? And that's why we say we walk the road of life alone together. Alone together. And we have to get used to that and comfortable with that and be okay with that. And not be afraid of it. Not be afraid of it. As Ernest says, plunge into our nature and the nature of the universe. Plunge into it. Dive in, Get with it. Be spontaneously combusted into that energy that's going to bring us up and through all of that. And so that you and I can not only see the light and feel the light and be warmed by the light, but become the light that we already are. Well, what a thought is that? Who knew that we were that amazing? As I said, you're the most amazing person in your own life. You truly are. And so, do you get a sense of that, though? Can you just get a little taste of that, a little glimmer of that, a little glimpse of that, the power of that, the power of the one power in the universe greater than we all are, but that lives and moves and has its being in us. That's greater than we are, greater than anything is, but available to us, to draw from, to call from, to think into, to feel into, to act from, and have an incredible life as a consequence of that. Nothing we haven't heard before, most of us, not really. And besides, if you've never even heard of it, there's something in you and there's something in me, and it's called a homing device. It's like, you get it into the dog and cat's ear so that if they get lost, they'll always be able to bring them back home again. We have that within us. And that's what that longing is, and that is what that yearning is. Until it's no longer there, until we realize, oh my God, I'm already home. What's the matter with me? I'm already here where I'm supposed to be. I have what I think I haven't got. I have what I think I need. I already have that. I do. But I must myself raise that up myself and give it an outlet myself and free it and redeem it myself because I can, because I'm equipped to, because I'm empowered, you see. And so is it not fascinating? Is this not a fascinating thing to know? How everything is interrelated and everything is interlinked. And as is pointed out in our book for the month, which we haven't got yet, but we'll have some next week, called Joseph Campbell, and he's one of my favorite teachers. It's called That thou art, that thou art. It's a smaller book of his. And in it, he reminds us of Schopenhauer. Now, he was very impressed by Schopenhauer, and he took this very seriously and practiced it in his own life. And he said, Schopenhauer said at one stage, how amazing it is, how very amazing it is. How is it possible that someone could understand suffering that was not his own, of which he or she had no concern, to the point that that person is moved by this understanding to spontaneously assist someone they do not know, have never met or seen, to alleviate them of the suffering that they're observing. And he said that people don't have to be good, bad, or indifferent. It's just a spontaneous thing in us. It's just something that awakens in us all of a sudden, and whoosh, we're there to help. And we've seen this over and over again. In recent times, I've seen it a couple of times now on the news with people who have spontaneously run to burning cars, strangers knew nothing, run up to these burning cars and drag the people out at great danger to themselves, sometimes them getting burned themselves, and with the possibility the whole thing could explode and they could be killed. Nevertheless, it's a spontaneous thing. Over they go, got to get that person out, and they do it. They do it. Isn't that an amazing thing? We do it. You see, we do that. When we see suffering that we can do something about, or think we can do something about, off we go. Not thinking, not feeling, just knowing help is needed, and I'm the help that's available. And off we go and help. Like all those amazing, incredible, wonderful firemen going up the stairs when everybody else is coming down the stairs on 9/11. And so many instances of this, people in earthquakes getting into dangerous situation to try and see if there's anybody buried under rubble and all of that. We do it in big ways and we do it in little ways because of that which is within us, which is greater than we are. You see how we're interconnected with each other in situations like that. We own each other then. We belong to each other then. We move to help and save the other then. Do we not? We're incredible, really, when you think about it. And we're not talking about goody-goody people either. We're talking about everybody and anybody at whatever stage we're at. And however we are, we will do that. We will give up our lives for another person. We will give up our lives for an animal, to save an animal. And it's a spontaneous thing. We're not thinking, we're being. Being the help, being the responder, being. Isn't that amazing? And I know that you have certain experiences in your own life where you measured up in this way and you did something awesome for somebody else that you didn't know. That's the power that is within you, and that's the power that is in me. So I'm going to ask us again, how are we going to spend these days, these last days of this year, when you and I are asked to come aside for a moment or two every day and to be in a different zone, a different energy zone, and to be different in ourselves in simply doing nothing except being quiet and still and listening. Quiet and still and listening, and pondering the breath. Just pondering the breath and allowing the breath to take care of everything. And it will, because the breath is the essence and the energy of life itself. It is the life, the divine life source. That's what it is. And it will take care of everything, not only in your life, but in all life. Because that's your intention. Your intention is to show up in sacred service in this way. simply by being the wholeness of yourself and the fullness of yourself and the integrated energy of yourself and the lightness of being in yourself. And that is radiating and radiating and radiating and rippling out and rippling out and rippling out like a pebble in a pond that will go and go and go and go and go. That's the invitation for you. That's the invitation for me. So it means that you and I get to draw aside from and pretend that the Advent Christmas season is just beginning. Pretend we didn't see any of the Hallmark stuff and all the ads and all the commercialism and so on. So I just pretend, oh, yes, I'm entering into this glorious season now when people are a little more kind, people are a little bit more mindful, people are a little bit more generous, people are a little bit more caring. Speaking of generosity, we still, at this late stage when all of our gifts are to be in by next Sunday, we have a tree almost full of names still to be taken care of. So I wonder how many brave souls are going to go out there and pick another name, or maybe pick a name for the first time. But get that done. That's one way we can show up in sacred service, that's for sure, and know that this is a real need that you can feel good about alleviating and taking care of. And I'm knowing that's how we are. We've always been, we've never yet left that tree with names on it. And I don't think this year is going to be any different, but there's a practical way. And when you and I are endeavoring to figure out in our deep pondering as we go into retreat. Now, retreat for us has a whole different meaning. Treatment work for us, you know what treatment is, it's prayer. So let's re-pray, retreat, retreat, re-pray. So re-praying means recommitting to the prayer that we originally stated and freed into the cosmos, we responded to. So let us take this serious. Let us see it as this sovereign, amazing spiritual thing that you and I can participate in. And where 2 or 3 are gathered, and look at, there's all of us in this room. If all of us were to do this, my gosh, this world would change exponentially. Exponentially, if all of us gave ourselves 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however many minutes, just being the light, being the love, being the unity, just being it. Can you imagine entering into a relationship without any content? No content, because in divine consciousness, and that's what enlightenment means, you go into a state wherein there's no content, there's only being. There's nothing to talk about, there's nothing to say, there's nothing to inquire about, there's nothing to ask for, nothing, because everything is a whole thing. It's a feeling, it's a conviction, it's an energy that's just blissed all the time, whatever that is to be blissed all the time. Maybe now and again you and I'll have a minute's, moments smattering of that, what that is. But wouldn't you like a longer space in that sacred energy? I would. But that's how we get it. We're being still, we're being quiet, we're listening, and we're breathing consciously. And with every breath, our idea is it's a blessing, it's a blessing, it's a blessing coming in, it's a blessing going out, it's a blessing coming in, it's a blessing going out. Who knew it was as simple as that and as challenging as that? Because simplicity is never easy. Have you noticed that? Not so. We complicate everything. We like to do that as human beings. So again, I will say the call is to raise the self by the self. Lift yourself up, redeem yourself, save yourself from the darkness of limitation and the coldness of separation and the scariness of fragmentation. And just be your good whole self. That's all. Sounds simple. Now, along the way, when we're not in the meditation, the commitment to, of course, making the one change every day for the better and never missing the opportunity to keep our mouths shut and stopping all of the taking of offense, that's going to help greatly too. It really is. It's going to be a super great help to you and to everybody around you. So you decide now how this month of December is going to be lived. And from the 1st to the 8th, do everything and be everything you can be in order to raise up the consciousness on this planet. And see when the 25th and we celebrate, actually we celebrated on the 23rd, the winter solstice. The returning of the light, of the light, of the light. That never left us in the first place, but the returning of it in mindfulness. And we have made the preparation. We have prepared. You and I can say, we have prepared. The last week of Christmas, the last week before Hanukkah, and all the rest of the feasts that we celebrate now. People are running, say, well, I'm making my preparations, I'm making my preparations. But do you ever hear people say, well, I'm making my soul preparations now. I have my soul preparations to take care of, and I'm a little bit behind with that, so I have to take care of my soul preparations. Well, I'm saying we could do that ourselves this week. This week. Gives you the rest of the month then to take care of Caesar stuff. But render to God the things that are God's, and to Caesar's the things that are Caesar's. So it's up to you. Do you want to be your own magnificent, great, bright, shining, sparkling, brilliant, iridescent self or not? Do you want a taste of that? Do you want to get in touch with that? Do you want to reintroduce yourself to the great self of yourself? Because that's what the invitation is, and that's all it is. Because we are one and the same thing, individually expressing that sameness in a unique way, but we are all one thing. When we're not even a thing, we're especially not a thing, and God is not a thing either. This thing called God is kind of, we make God a fact. And God is not a fact. It's a fact that God is. No, it's not. This thing called God doesn't even exist, but what it symbolizes is the power and the energy and the creativeness that exists everywhere, and out of which everything flows, and the energy that keeps it all together, sustains it and maintains it and expands it and advances it in its myriads of forms, because evolution is always advancing us into more and more and more of the self that we are. That's how evolution works. But you and I are responsible for our own evolutions. You and I have to go into the forest on our own and bring back the treasure as well. Can't keep it for ourselves. So I'm saying to us all, remember who you are, remember what you are, remember whose you are. Because that's all we have to do in order to flourish and to thrive and to bring the world with us in our flourishing and in our thriving, because it's not just about you and me advancing, it's about everything and everyone advancing too. So you have it within you, you have the power, you have the presence. The question is, will you or won't you go that extra mile? Are you ready? Yes. Because I'm telling you, you'll never be in an ideal moment when you're ready. There's no ideal moment to be ready. All there is now, whether you feel good, bad, or indifferent, now is the moment. Now is the moment, regardless of how you're feeling, to be ready. And to have your get up and go, especially when you just don't feel a sizzle of that at all. Get up and go anyway. Move it or you lose it. You've heard it over and over again. Move the energy, the spiritual energy within yourself, or it goes unused. It goes on. It's like buried treasure, like the man buried his coin and did nothing with it, and then he suffered the consequences of that. He lost it, and more than that did he lose. He was punished for it as well. And so I leave you with that, my dear ones, that you, just you sitting in an individual seat here today, you are the called, you are the chosen. But my question to you is, are you the responder? Are you the responder? Because that's up to you. It's not forced. It's up to you to respond or not to respond to what you have been called into and chosen for. The 8 days will give us a chance to know how well we're responding or not, and if we can choose to respond more fully and more deeply, and as Ernest Holmes would say, plunge more fully into that which you and which I am, which is what? The point of power through which the infinite in all its brilliance and intelligence flows through powerfully. That's who you are, and so it is.